Just to explain what hunting means here, twice a year Malta welcomes the wonder of the migration of birds to and from Africa. Unfortunately, that welcome all too often is with a fuselage of shots as hunters try to shoot down the birds either legally or illegally. And it's not driven by a need to find food, it's for target practice or to stuff the birds and keep them as trophies. But it really doesn't matter what I think, it really matters what Maltese people think. So we've been on the island for a few days now, talking to a range of people, those passionately for hunting, those against hunting, and also those people who seem to be stuck in the middle, who are frankly getting a bit fed up with their politics and the news and their countryside dominated by hunting.
This senseless cruelty and this complete disregard of the right to privacy, the right to enjoyment of the countryside of the rest of the population, which is really upsetting people, and I think is leading them to act finally, because this issue has been with us for a very, very long time.
They didn't kill it, it's just, or they hit him in the wings or something.
Never shot anything which couldn't be eaten.
Yeah.
So it was turtle dove and quail.
Yeah.
And he used to say, I won't shoot it unless I can see its eye. So that he would definitely kill it and not maim it.
They used to call me.
Yeah.
I used to go and pick it up, take it home, cure him and keep him as a pet.
It's not only about hunting, it's also about keeping them in captivity. So
Yeah,
for example,
yeah.
where I live in the south of Malta, it's very often that you see men congregating with tiny cages and birds that can barely open their wings.
As pets, at one point I had more than 12.
I was walking in the valley at Rehana and I saw a big bird. I couldn't recognize what it was. And it was obvious that the wing was broken. I phoned up BirdLife, they came. They said, I'm afraid they'll have to put it down.
I could give you a list of birds that I've seen with gunshot injuries in the hand at the vet, but it would be a very long list.
Are you, proud of the fact that there's a really strong, although there's a small number of hunters, it's a really strong thing in the country?
No, absolutely not proud of it.
Yeah.
And I fail to see the logic.
Because I would like to encourage all people to continue to appreciate nature as God has given it to us as a gift.
Just let me get this right. You're in a swimming pool in a garden or something like that.
Yeah, in a private house, basically.
With your young children in the swimming pool, and there's lead raining out of the sky into the swimming pool.
Yeah, so you'd be by the pool, and the moment I would hear a shot fired, I would go to my kid and just put her under the umbrella just to make sure we don't get hit by any falling lead.
Can you describe what is a lead shower?
It's a lead shower,
Yeah.
okay. Shotguns fire pellets.
Yeah.
So they don't fire a bullet or a slug. They fire is lots and lots of lead pellets. So a lead shower is when the pellets land on you. And when that happens on the tent, the shot is still hot. So needless to say, it burns holes through the tent.
And we had lead shot pellets all over us. And this was a group of teenagers basically just having a walk.
You know how many protected sites we have in Malta?
Yeah.
You don't have them in England.
Yeah.
32 protected sites. They can go there.
Yeah.
And they leave us hunting.
In the particular seasons, you try to avoid certain areas.
We are sitting on the roof of my house. Beneath is my bedroom. The fields behind me during hunting turn into a war zone.
He bought it. He knew that there are hunters there, and
So why should my sleep early in the morning be disturbed by people who are saying I have no right to say what they do? Of course I do. They're disturbing me.
he decided to live there. So
If I could live in a country where 6:30 in the morning I'm in my bed and I still can sleep with my windows wide open and not be waking up at 6:30 in the morning with gunfire, I would really, really appreciate that.
well, we were before him.
If you speak to them, you'll still see that it is the going up early in the morning, you know, the waiting.
I had my uncles, they were hunters and bear trappers. So I used to go with them, and it gets in you.
They waited for the day to go and prepared things to take and the food, and it was like going there, it's their outing, it's their entertainment.
The purpose one hunts is obviously not to go and provide food for the family. It is more being close to nature, being close to your dogs. Basically, I would say the actual kill is the last thing involved. I mean, it becomes the last action in a series of events which lead to that.
There is an element of great passion.
It's still killing. I mean, that's my view. But the way they saw it, it was like kind of hobby.
When you go there in the morning in that mist, you have that coffee and you hear shooting there, some shooting there, you say, and then you'll catch nothing.
It's simply, I guess, a way in which people, funnily enough, connect with nature.
When they start talking about how they're in the countryside, they're stalking the birds, they're all the rest of it, and they have to get into position, they have to take a photograph, they sound exactly the same as when you're talking to a hunter. Now, so one of them's looking through a camera, which is probably me, looking through the camera, and I click it like that. I capture that bird, but it's still alive. And when you press that trigger, that bird will die. What goes through your mind? What?
Well, you're lucky to be talking to a person that does both, you see. What I do is I shoot with my camera birds that I can't eat. And I enjoy that thoroughly. And I've got a whole collection of pictures. But I also shoot the birds I can eat with a gun. And basically, the end of it is both pleasurable to me.
The hunters, some of their arguments are that, you know, this is a tradition, it's part of the Maltese character. You know, I mean, what's your view about that?
I mean, high-powered repeater shotguns with extendable magazines to take even more shots. Does that qualify as tradition? I don't think so.
I grew up, as you were saying, in a family in which everyone in the family hunted to some extent or another. So for me, it was very much part of life.
What makes it so special for you? Is it the tradition? Is it?
It's the tradition.
Networks of controllers on radios, all tied into each other to report bird movements, to report birdwatcher movements, to report police movements.
How's the tradition of hunting changed since you were a young man? You know,
Not a bit.
Not a bit.
High-powered speedboats, again, not traditional.
I remember that the hunt itself led to a contribution to the family.
Electronic tape lures, really loud. Can you call that traditional?
That's not a Maltese tradition. It is something that has been carried on for a long time, and you do in the museums and in private collections see etchings and paintings of hunters looking all, you know, country lads out for a hunt and whatever. And from that point of view, I can understand the attraction. I mean, you know, going out of a morning and pitting your wits against birds with a single shotgun or a double-barreled one or whatever, I can see the romance of it. But the people who actually do it nowadays have about as much grounding in this tradition as I have in free-fall parachute jumping. They don't.
I mean, don't you see that, you know, maybe Maltese culture is moving on and leaving hunting behind? Do you think that's a risk?
No.
Many traditional hunters, and I'm thinking here of a couple of members of the judiciary who used to be hunters, are disgusted with the whole idea of hunting nowadays.
Well, I think there is room for legal hunting. It has been with us for a long time. It's a tradition in this country, and I don't see a reason why it should be completely and totally abolished.
I don't want our culture to be thrown away. You know?
I don't think it's very common to have someone, you know, get into hunting who does not have a family history.
I mean, I grew up in families where grandfathers and uncles from both sides of the family used to hunt. Up till the age of 13, I used to to go hunt with them?
It was my grandfather who obviously inherited that from his grandfather.
No, my family was never into it.
I know it is a tradition, but not all traditions are good. So was slavery, and it was banned, and it's illegal nowadays.
It's not a tradition for everyone then?
Not for everyone, no.
Yeah. I assumed that everybody, went out with their dad and learned how to shoot and things, but it's not like that, is it? No. At all.
Anything that used to passes on top of me,
really,
I used to shoot.
Yeah.
Even an aircraft, though I know that it wouldn't go down.
Yeah, you just shoot anything.
I have friends who say, like, I work all year round. No matter how much money I make, there's enough money for the fines. So no matter what I shoot down, there's a fine, I'll pay it.
Unfortunately, there still are illegal hunters, which they're not the proper hunters that they've got the license. Mainly they're without license, and they've got their weapons that they're not even registered.
So they're illegal weapons that
exactly.
Well as
it would be much easier to enforce the law then, when you know that there's no spring hunting.
And they know that there will be the police following them.
Yeah.
What they do is they hide the weapon in the field, and they go home. They don't care because they bought the weapon for €100 or €150. Yeah. They have nothing to lose. 150 it's still worth it.
Yeah.
You can't have people driving in the streets, seeing something, any type of bird flying, stopping in the middle of the road and shooting the thing down.
Yeah. Ray's been shot. Can you get there before the ambulance?
Ray is one of your colleagues.
Ray is a BirdLife Malta staff member. He is the warden on the afforestation site.
We've had a case last week when somebody shot down, I'm not sure what type of bird it was, off a crane. So it's a construction crane, and the birds went down to rest on it, and this guy just stopped in the middle of the road and took a shot at it.
3 shots rang out from somewhere behind us here, and the stork came down and fell in the valley here. And went to recover it. There was a hunter with me who started taking pictures, was really disgusted.
Shot with a shotgun, took pellets in the head, basically.
And it's mad.
Yeah,
it's like there's no law.
Now those are the people that should not be allowed to hunt.
Yeah.
Because that small minority is what is damaging the larger minority, the majority that actually do things legally.
What has to be done now is work with the hunters who are really genuine and they want to stop all the illegalities and stop the rest,
We have an element of illegalities which we're all working to eradicate, and basically I don't even consider that to be hunting. I mean, it's totally unacceptable for us.
It gets nasty then, because even if there are a small number of people, they do riots like they did last Sunday.
People are frightened and intimidated by hunters in actually speaking out. I mean, I was speaking just this morning to a Maltese man who was actually one of the ones who was attacked.
We were there bird watching, and at one point there was a group of people just approaching us very fast. We decided to, we didn't like this mob of people, and we decided to start moving away from the mob and actually start running. They started throwing stones at us, insulting us, offending us, and they were very aggressive towards us.
How many of them were there?
We were talking about 30 hunters, between 30 and 40 hunters, and we were only 13 people. We had a kid with us, we had even women with us. We tried to warn them that there was a 7-year-old kid with us, but they just went more violent. They threw more stones at us, and even bottles.
So he was so worried about retaliation that he didn't want to be filmed, Now,
I don't blame him at all. I'm remembering now, actually, when I was in my early teens, I was on a bike. There was a pickup truck passing by and hooting at us. We started shouting back. He actually came down to us hunters and he pushed me off the bike. A 14-year-old girl.
And just very recently, I remember a car being, a birdwatcher's car shot just next to a playground opposite a church in broad daylight.
The place where we used to birdwatch from, which is just down here, we used to have used engine oil put there so that we can't sit there. We used to be beaten up here or going on the way back. Every season something used to happen here.
I mean, your organisation has come out very, very strongly saying that everything that hunters must do must be absolutely legal and non-violent, and you've condemned the
I don't see any other way of doing things, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't think it's something we profess. We've stated it, but I think the majority of people profess that.
Yeah. I suffered a lot because of it. I mean, I had my windscreen smashed in the past. I had my brakes tampered with. My mother's door was burnt. We had pro-hunting slogans on our garage door.
And these are people who are in their hobby, if you want to call it a hobby, or their pastime, out with blinking shotguns. So if they can't be trusted to express their opinion legally and peacefully when they're en masse, are you going to trust them to have a shotgun in their hands and some 14-year-old, 13-year-old goes up to them and says, in school my teacher said you shouldn't be doing this. Okay, they probably wouldn't shoot him, but I'm not prepared to risk that any longer.
If I have a pair of binoculars with me, I will find myself hiding them automatically without thinking of it if I see people. And the same thing, sometimes people feel the same way if they have a camera with a zoom lens.
And looking at me like, what is she doing with a camera? I am the criminal because I have a camera.
When you think of it, it's crazy, really. But
it is, isn't it?
The biggest problem, the biggest obstacle for anybody that wants to report anyone is the fact that you have to go and testify in court against the person you're reporting. Now, I don't think anybody in his right senses would want to be there in front of somebody who's going to be charged 5,000 euros or maybe even sent for a year in jail. So the biggest thing I think that should be done, the first thing that should be done to actually get this thing to work, is for the government to implement some form of witness protection. We've had a lot of people that would want to go forward but do not go forward.
These are your members, hunters?
Not only our members, a lot of hunters who would actually see something. They would phone up the police, fair enough about it all, but that's as far as it goes.
In making this film, we thought it was important to get a view from the government itself, and we contacted Rodrigo Galdes, who is the minister responsible for animal rights and fisheries. And unfortunately, they refused to meet with us.
I think the other two political parties always try to please the electorate. They always try and please their voters, and that's why they got into such a mess.
We also tried to meet with Dr. Tony Abella, a senior figure in the Labour Party, so that we might learn what the Labour Party's position on this is as well. Unfortunately, a meeting we were going to have with him was cancelled at the last minute.
And there's also, of course, the perception that prior to the last general election, 18 months ago, whatever it was, the Labour Party had made a deal with hunters.
They've had political leverage for a very long time, for a simple reason that the electoral difference between the two main parties in Parliament is so slight that they can really get away literally with murder.
And we were promised. And we voted because being part of the European Union is a very good thing.
So they can basically sell their votes in a way for...
It's blackmail.
They threatened political parties, whichever party is in power, with the vote.
I wouldn't say the hunters sell it. I think that the politicians look for it.
Called the votes.
We were there sitting on the verge of the most important political decision the last few decades, whether or not to go into the European Union or not. And there we were being threatened.
You feel, first of all, you were lied to by the government in terms of EU membership at that time. And that to protect the rights to hunt on Malta, you'd be willing to see Malta leave the European Union.
Yes.
So I think the general trend is, with most people, I can see why the hunters are annoyed, but it's about time they're told where to get off. They've gone too far now, it's ridiculous.
Can we move on to the referendum? Now,
when I talk to my friends, they're all in favor of stopping it.
Some people say there's not going to be a big enough turnout to actually vote it down. I believe it's going to be the other way around.
Whether they go out and vote is another thing.
Although it contravenes EU legislation, and EU environmental legislation is one of the things which many Maltese people who voted for accession to the EU welcomed. Despite that legislation, this is still happening. And I think there's a sense that, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do it ourselves. And I think that the time has come, yes.
It needs to be taken out of party politics before somebody gets shot with a flipping double barrel.
No other referendum has been pushed by the public.
And I will be voting in that referendum against spring hunting.
But I mean, I would say it's a very unjust way of doing things. Malta being a very Catholic country, if one had to decide to ban same-sex unions, marriages, call them what you like, I think it would be just a matter of a day or two to collect enough signatures to have a referendum, to stop something which is legal. I mean, it's acceptable today for same-sex marriages to happen. What's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong. But if a section of the of Maltese society decides it's not on, and we do have an abrogative referendum because it's permissible by law, then this can be stopped. And it's just the same thing about spring hunting.
Ben, would you accept that decision in the referendum?
We'll take any legal means possible to address the issue and basically get back what we have a right to.
Yeah. What would that be? Would it be to challenge it through the courts, or would it be to carry on hunting? Or
No. To go there, it's against the law.
So you'll fight it through the courts, or
yes, of course, any legal means possible. I mean, we don't believe in any other form of reason.
There's a big debate in Malta about whether hunting should carry on. What's your view?
Well, my personal view is that it should be banned completely.
Regulations need to be followed, but I don't think that it should be like completely abolished.
I think it should be stopped. I don't agree with it one bit, and I just think it's wrong.
I believe hunting should be controlled rather than stopped altogether.
I don't agree with hunting. No, I think it should be banned.
You think it should be banned?
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be banned.
It must be, yes, regulated, and it must be enforced, really and truly. It is not just a policy for votes. It's not just a policy for parties, really, to continue hunting in order to get votes.
I think it's something barbaric.
I am against spring hunting. We can have other kinds of tourism come here. We can have bird life tourism, for example.
I don't like comparing Malta to other countries. Malta's a lot smaller. It's a lot more densely populated. You've got to consider for Malta's specific issue.
I'm personally against anything that's not sustainable.
Honest, I am personally against hunting because it is quite an inhumane act to shoot birds in the sky, and also it's a bit, I see it as inconvenient and a bit noisy, especially for locals. You know, I live in Attard and we hear the shootings all the time.
It should be controlled much more.
There was already some regulations on it. These were broken. People can't take them seriously, so I agree with the total banning of hunting in Malta.
The thing that gets out of hand, a few of the members don't follow the rules.
Vote against bird hunting.
I think it's important. Everyone should vote. It's a very important topic, and we should all be active. This affects all of us. So.
I might vote against hunting. Definitely vote against spring hunting.